Professor Julio Celis from Denmark, Danish Cancer Society, President of the European Association of Cancer Research, and architect, or one of the architects of Eurocan Platform. Mm-hmm. We've had a year of this exciting, risky venture, and the feedback at this meeting seems to be very, very positive. Are you happy with it?
Oh, I'm very happy.
Yeah?
I think it's the first time that we have heard from the various work packages that we have, and also I think we have heard good feedback from the audience. The fact that I think our main job was to structure translational cancer research in Europe, and in some way it's not only about making sure that we can do the research and that we can have the structures that we want, but it's also about how we're going to make sure that this long-term process of dealing with cancer can be followed up in the future.
Sure. So the leadership of these partners within the Eurocan Platform is, I think, pretty critical for this, because you have shown that they can sing out of one song sheet and they can sing with one voice, and they're all saying the same thing, that this is a critical time for health research, and we are extremely well equipped. But we need to see some sort of vision. Now, you've been working very hard on this, and you've been developing new structures to ensure the funding streams for the future. Would you like to tell us about them?
Yeah, I mean, we, of course, place the patient at the center. Yeah. So I think that brings all the disciplines together, and we agree that in order to move discoveries to the bedside, we need to get everybody tuned. Yeah. And I think this is working in the Eurocan, and I think we, even though the amount of money that has been allocated is small, there is a lot of contribution from the various centers, so there is a willingness to go beyond. Of course, we are at the beginning, but structuring cancer research requires that in some way we tune up with what the Innovation Union is doing, mainly because Europe has a strategy for growth and economic growth and well-being that in some way has translational research at the center. Yep. Mainly because there would not be innovation if we don't have translational research. And I think this is a major focus of our activities, because translational research is a very complex. Requires multidisciplinarity, it requires engagement of patients, industries, regulators, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it require complex infrastructures, large number of patients. So we need to, in some way, have a strategy that would allow the funding of these multidisciplinary programs that in some way deal with all the barriers that we see in translational research, in particular with the innovation cycle, where it is a long cycle for health research. It takes 10 to 12 years to move or to create put a new drug in the market. And I think there are so many barriers there. There are many stakeholders that are involved into that. There are the fact that we have barriers at all stages. We have funding problems. We've been for years working with short-term funding, which has no flexibility. If we're going to accomplish moving quicker discoveries to the bedside, as the Innovation Union wants, I think we need to have a different strategic action in Europe that would allow us to do that.
And this is not just a problem in cancer research, is it?
No, it's not a problem.
You have seen, and you led the discussion on the convergence of focus on these problems from the other health research areas. The other killers are cardiovascular disease or neurological diseases and so on. How is that moving along?
Well, I think it was clear from the fact that in Horizon 2020, that is the EU instrument to fund research in the next 7 years, it was clear that the Commission didn't want to continue doing fragmented sort of projects or programs. And they decide to concentrate on societal challenges, one of which is health, where cancer is. So it was obvious to us that we needed to have all of the diseases in the table to talk about a way that we could influence the way we tackle societal challenge in common. And that was the reason why this Biomed Alliance, or the Alliance for Biomedical Research in Europe, was created, which now has about 21 organizations, all diseases. And they all agree to a single voice, is the need to have a strategic action for health research that would secure that patients benefit from the outcomes of research in the quickest possible way. So this organization, really in a very short time, because I think the first...
Less than a year, I think.
Less than a year. In December, actually, this organization decided to have a common voice on this problem. And the idea of creating a European Council for Health Research was put forward. And the Assembly agreed to a proposal to create a core working group that would set up some sort of a plan, and at the same time create a concept paper which will define what this council was going to do, that it was not being done by, let's say, FP7 framework program. So the outcome of that has been a concept paper where the idea of the council, what it would do, what are the benefits, what is the added value, and I think it's something that we have had the opportunity to share with all the biomedical community during the last months or so. So we have asked for their feedback, whether they agree to that. So I'm very happy to say that within a month we were able to get a lot of reactions, and the paper was amended according to the comments we had. But it has been seen by at least most of our members in the community. So it has that value as a single voice, as a simple paper. But on the other hand, it's something that created a totally new possibility in which what we want is the balance between the top-down, bottom-up. Up to now, most of the decisions have been done by others, not scientists. So the idea with this council is to put the scientists, excellent scientists, at the center of it, defining new priorities, creating programs for funding, in some way providing advice to member states, to commission, to parliaments, or regulatory bodies. I mean, the idea is, as we've seen in this meeting during the last 2 days, is a lot of problems across the innovation cycle. And unless we have an organization or something where we can debate those issues and find solutions, I don't think we're going to solve this problem. Because there is no memory on, and there is no work on.
And with the turnover of politicians who have short memory anyway.
No, well, that's the main problem we have in health, because everybody, of course, would like to have more funds for cancer research or whatever. And the problem is that the innovation cycle is against us. And if we want more funding, then we have to compete with other challenges like climate, transport, environment, and they can actually do innovation in a much shorter time. So the politicians are much more sympathetic to that, because they can see, the rewards on what they have,
and get the credit for it.
Get the credit for it. Sure. So that's the other problem: how we can get a body that has memory, that the politician will trust, and that at the end of the day deliver what we want. And I think that's the remit of this council, which I think I'm very glad now to hear that we have proposed an amendment to the Commission proposal to the Parliament that that word Council for European Health Research be included into the Parliament amendment, and that has been filed. I think the Parliament will make a decision during this month.
And then 23rd of May?
23rd of May, well, I think to us it was very flattering that in the middle of this producing these concept papers and discussions with various parliamentarians, that the Commission invite us to do a joint meeting to discuss the future of health research in Europe and the need for a strategic action. And that we were planning to do that ourselves because we were going to put that concept to the whole of the community plus the stakeholder. But the Commission accelerated that, and they say, why don't we do it together?
Sure.
So there will be a discussion on this proposal. I think the Commission had a high-level group themselves who made recommendation for a strategic action. It was more general. Of course, there is a great interest, I think, from everybody that in some way there is some sort of coordination at European level in terms of coordinating funding at both EU, national and regional level. Something that, of course, is not going to happen in a short term, but it's something that we need to go for that because 95% of the resources remain in the member state, 5% goes into community actions or so. So it's very important that ideally you would like to in some way coordinate the priorities for research between countries, the Commission, and then of course build up these teams that will solve problems by do cross-border collaboration. But it's not a simple thing because of there are many possibilities, and of course the Commission is one of them, mainly because if it is something that, like cancer, that is a societal challenge, requires EU-wide participation, then they are the ones who really have the right to propose. But there are other possibilities.
I think it's very, very promising that the Commission have essentially got in ahead of the parliamentary discussion, and I think that's very encouraging indeed, and I compliment you on getting this so fast off the ground, and I'm very optimistic, and we'll see how it pans out.
We depend very much on what will happen on the 23rd, what will the Parliament decide on the amendments, and then I think we still have to work on the governance.
And how it all pans out.
That is already
But if you get the principle through, Julio, I think that's you have more than halfway.
Yeah, my feeling is that I think as scientists we believe that that's the way to go.
Sure.
And I think we should not ourselves change just because funds are there. Sure. I think we have a duty to move things to the patient. So I think it's an obligation for us to make sure that that we are participants on the decision making, because as a matter of fact, our communities, clinicians, so they are the ones who really deliver this. So we need to be tuned. Yeah.
So we'll continue this conversation in a couple of months' time, and good luck.
Yeah, thanks very much.